And when I really looked into myself to say, like, well, what is the thing that could have changed my life? Um, I realized that having someone like me to enter a community, a classroom, a university, a workplace.
So let's talk a little bit about you as a speaker and a consultant, right? Because the work that you do is so important because it's relational, right? And we often talk about how relationships are the foundation of this type of business, but I've been thinking a lot Opulence Abundance is the foundation to any business, right? It's not just about speakers and consultants. Really, if you have great relationship building skills, you can sell anything. You will be celebrated, and even the times maybe when the economy isn't doing well, people will still value you and want to take care of you, right? Like, it's a big difference between the way that people feel about maybe Twitter right now compared to even Netflix. And even Netflix has done some things, but we've got a better relationship. We're not canceling it right away. So for you, where did this work around conflict start? Like, where did you get centered on this is the way that I want to serve my audience?
Very powerful question here. And I just want to affirm what you're saying around relationships. My mom was able to join one of our business calls very briefly, and I asked her, like, this is a group of entrepreneurs. What advice do you have for us? Because their business has been around for over 25 years. And her answer surprised me, but she said, there was competition at every corner. We were one of 14 different mattress stores. And we were selling ourselves. It was about the relationship. And I was like, oh, it didn't have anything to do with the beds.
Shouts out to your mom because she really jumped on and was just like spot on with it. And we were talking about relationships. It was like she's so connected. She's very intuitive like you.
She is very intuitive. And something I think about that my parents have talked to me about is when they went through the recession, um, I think they were actually so tuned into their customers that they knew that spending was dropping. And so they were actually able to not take in as much inventory. And I think that's how they survived that recession and
Wow.
actually thrived within it. It was a deeply relational move. Even though it had to do with inventory, they were so tapped into their customers that they saw the change coming. And I even remember I used to go to thrift stores all the time. And I remember telling my mom, there's all these new clothes from Target there. And my mom was like, it's because of the recession. They didn't know. And this was a little before the recession. She was like, oh yeah, everywhere is dropping inventory. And so I look back on that memory and I'm like, wow, being relational, it's actually more than just like having good relationships. That's part of it. It's about being really tuned in and connected to people. So a big part of my story, to me, it kind of goes back to my own wound. And I shout out to an incredible entrepreneur, Miller, who I met that person through Speaking for Profit. And I worked with them for a short time because one of my passions is working with business owners when they're scaling into their dreams and just being that wraparound support to and also pushing them to say you really need admin. These are the specific things you need. I'll take this over for 2 weeks, but higher. Um, so when I was working with Miller, they really clarified to me that I saw them working from a place of purpose. And I realized that even though there are all these things I can do, what I actually choose to do has to be really important to me. Um, and when I really looked into myself to say, like, well, what is the thing that could have changed my life? Um, I realized that having someone like me to enter a community, a classroom, a university, a workplace, to advocate for tolerating difference, to give some of this language around culture, to challenge culture. Because I think the truth of my story is, I grew up in the South in a very conservative area. My town, they call it the buckle of the Bible Belt. And I just constantly craved loving, like being a part of, I craved belonging, very much in the way that that's talked about. I wanted to belong. I wanted to be a part of the community. And so I learned to be very relational. I learned to be really funny, really attuned to others. But even as I learned those skills, I felt these like glass walls all around me in all of my relationships.